Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Organic Certification through the Texas Department of Agriculture. My name is Robert Maggiani, and I'm a Sustainable Ag Specialist with the Texas office of the National Center for Appropriate Technology, more commonly known as NCAT. NCAT is a nationwide nonprofit organization with 6 regional headquarters across the country and the central office in Butte, Montana. We work on issues pertaining to sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy, and sustainable communities. This webinar comes to you from the Southwest Regional Office located in San Antonio, Texas. Today's webinar is part of NCAT's grant project with the National Institute of Food and Agriculture's Organic Transition Program. Its official title is the Subtropical Organic Agriculture Research Project, or SOAR. We are co-partners in this project with the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley to help develop real-world solutions for organic producers down in the valley while training university students to be valuable researchers. Today's presentation will be about 15 or 20 minutes long, and we'll follow it up with time for questions from you folks who are attending. And for y'all who are listening, you can type in questions you might have in the questions box on your screen. I'll gather them up and ask the speaker to answer as many of them as we have time for when she finishes her presentation. We're anticipating a lot of questions during this webinar. We know that there are a number of producers in Texas who are affected or who could be affected by the changes at TDA. We also know that some of the producers are not sure about what's happening, and that's why we're trying to clear up some of the uncertainties with this webinar. Excuse me. So please don't hesitate to ask questions during the webinar. Chances are we won't be able to get to all of them during the webinar, but NCAT Sustainable Ag experts will get back to you about your questions by way of email in the days to come. Our speaker will also be glad to answer questions after the webinar is over. So the next hour or so is not the only chance for you to ask questions. The webinar will be recorded and be available on NCAT's ATRA webpage. There's also a feature on the page called Ask an Ag Expert, where you can send us emails with any questions you may have. Or you just might want to call our Sustainable Ag Helpline, which is 1-800-346-9140. We welcome all your questions on any sustainable ag subject, not just today's webinar topic. It's also worth mentioning it's a free service. If you didn't get that phone number or web address, please don't worry. We'll have it on screen at the end of the webinar. Also, before we begin, I just want to remind you to take a few minutes to complete the survey for today's webinar. When it's over and you sign out, you'll get the survey right away. The survey will help us improve our webinars in the future, and we appreciate your taking part in it. As I mentioned, the main purpose for today's webinar is to bring you up to date on the changes made to the Organic Certification Program of the Texas Department of Agriculture. Texas was the second state in the nation to certify organic producers, starting in 1989, and TDA currently certifies about 230 producers, processors, and handlers. There were major changes made to the program late last year that we will discuss today. We want to say thanks to TDA for being part of this learning experience, and we appreciate their willingness to be thoughtful and transparent with us. Our speaker today is Mary Ellen Holloman, who is the coordinator for organic certification at TDA. Mary Ellen has served in this capacity for 6 years and was an organic certification program specialist for a year before that. Prior to relocating to Texas, she worked at the Alabama Department of Agriculture and Industries as an agricultural development specialist. She holds a BS degree in agribusiness and economics from Auburn University. She has a lifelong passion for agriculture due to growing up on a family farm in northeast Alabama. Her family's operation consisted of beef cattle, free-range poultry, row crops, timber, various 4-H livestock projects, and over 2 acres of vegetables and orchards. So now I'll turn the microphone over to you, Mary Ellen. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning, everyone. I want to begin by providing some background on why these changes occurred and why they were necessary in order for the TDA Organic Certification Program to continue. In 2011, the TDA Organic Certification Program was mandated by the Texas Legislature to recover 100% of the costs associated with operating the program. As a result, we incorporated cost-saving measures and efficiencies where able, but soon realized that a fee increase was necessary. We incorporated a small fee increase back in 2011 that became effective in fiscal year 2012, but it was simply not sufficient to sustain the program. As a result, our review staff was cut in half by the loss of 2 positions. Then, in 2013, TDA conducted a survey of the currently certified operations to obtain feedback concerning the program. Generally, the responses did not support a fee increase amount that was adequate to uncover full cost recovery. We did get feedback that while the organic certification program provided a benefit and operations wanted to continue to be certified by us, they simply did not want to incur any increased fees. Therefore, we also reached out to our Organic Agriculture Industry Advisory Board, and they advised us to evaluate outsourcing solutions for certification activities. We here at TDA posted a request for a proposal in June of 2014 seeking proposals from external businesses, primarily private sector certifying agents, to provide an augmented certification review and processing service for the program. Unfortunately, we didn't receive any proposals for consideration. Then, TDA proactively conducted another outreach to our certified operations by holding a conference call to both certified operations and industry stakeholders on September 14th, 2014. We had almost 100 participants involved, which was an incredibly high number and much more than what we had anticipated. It was a wonderful experience. We got a lot of great feedback. And we considered all of this feedback as part of finalizing our process for the proposed rule of the fee schedule. The rule proposal for the fee change was filed with the Texas Register on, I just realized that I have my dates incorrect on this. The conference call occurred in July of 2014, and the proposal was filed in September of 2014, and it was adopted to the Texas Administrative Code in Chapter 18 on December 5th, 2014. All comments received were supportive of continuing the organic certification program, even if they were not necessarily supportive of a fee increase. So those fee changes did take effect on January 1st of this year. So that quickly brings us up to date. Next slide, please. Also, another huge change that occurred in January of this year is that the citizens of Texas inaugurated our new commissioner, Mr. Sid Miller. I do want to encourage all of you to follow Commissioner Miller as well as the Texas Department of Agriculture on Facebook, and follow Commissioner's Twitter account at Texas Dept of Ag. You'll see where the department is headed, what Commissioner Miller is supporting, what he's concerned about, both on a state and a federal level. And I think you will find this information to be very useful as well as educational. One thing I do want to point out is that Commissioner Miller is very supportive of the organic industry. He attended the Drought Summit that NCAT and TAFCA sponsored earlier in the year, and he was very encouraged by the feedback that he got from that. And he's very appreciative of the support and the correspondence that he's held thus far with certified organic operations and sustainable agriculture operations. Next slide. So moving forward, I want to give a little bit more background of why we use the Texas Administrative Code for posting our fee schedule. Per Section 205.642 of the NOP regulations, certifying agents shall provide all persons inquiring about the application process with a copy of its fee schedule. Therefore, as a state agency, we must hold a public viewing of our fee schedule. We accomplish this through Chapter 18, Section 702 of the Texas Administrative Code, and you can easily access this on the Secretary of State's website by going to sos.texas.gov, and then once on the website, click on State Rules and Open Meetings, which is located directly below Secretary Kaskos's name. Then follow the prompts leading you to the Texas Administrative Code. Next slide. I do want everyone to know that we do have user-friendly versions of the fee schedules. These are the first two forms that we have converted over to a writable format here for this program, so it's a big step for us. We are still working out some kinks, so if you see something that you don't think is functioning correctly or is operating correctly, please let us know by sending us an email or giving us a phone call. But these forms are located on our website. The first form that I want to talk about is the primary form that we'll be discussing for the rest of this presentation, and that's the new application form. The ROR-600 long name is Application for Organic Certification Form. We abbreviate that to the 600 form for ease of discussion. But this form should be completed by all new applicants and operations incorporating additional scopes of certification into their operation. We have another fee submission form titled the ROR-601 Fee Submission Form, and this is, again, for all other types of fee payments. So if you are a new applicant, you will only complete the ROR-600 form and not the 601. If you are submitting your annual update, that is when you will utilize the ROR-601. Again, both forms are fillable, and also they should automatically calculate the fees based upon the information you provide. But please note that you will need Microsoft Excel installed on your computer in order to access the fillable forms. If you are completing the forms manually, please refer to the form's instructions on how to calculate the fees due. Both the forms and the instructions are available on our website at texasagriculture.gov. No abbreviations, completely spelled out, texasagriculture.gov. Next slide. Okay, I do want to show you how to locate these forms. We get a lot of questions on where are our forms located. I can't find the form. So here is an example. So once you get onto the Texas Department of Agriculture website, I want you to go look at the ribbon across the top and just put your cursor on the regulatory programs title, but do not click on it. Just put it on there as shown on the presentation, and this drop-down box will occur. From there, scroll down to Organics, click on Organics, and that will bring up the organic page which we have a screenshot of on this next slide. So here is a screenshot of the organic certification page. Notice that we have some basic information as well as additional resources, both on the right corner and then resources specific to the scope of certification. You'll see here resources for organic producers, and then below that, which could not fit on to the slide, is resources for organic handlers. For today's presentation, I want you to focus on the second hyperlink labeled Forms, and then the third hyperlink, Fee Calculator for new applicants. So again, if you're going to the Forms, at the top right corner, put your cursor over Regulatory Programs. Don't click on it, just put it over it. You'll have the drop-down box to Organics, which will bring up this page, and then you will click on Forms. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll show you what pops up. So notice this is filtered down just to the organic forms. There is a tab labeled Forms on our website where you can go directly to the forms. Don't click on that, please. It has all of the forms for the TDA agency. I tried to count it one time. I lost count at about 150. So there are a lot of forms on our website. So please use the routing process that I just showed. It will reduce confusion and hair pulling. So on this page, there's 3 points that I want you to notice. Number 1 being the form name, and then number 2 being where the form is actually located underneath form download, and number 3, which is oftentimes the most overlooked, is the instruction download. Please note that the instructions are available for almost all the forms that we have, and they typically will answer the majority of questions you have without having to seek additional information from us. We are happy to answer any questions, but if you're going through these forms late at night and you can't get a response immediately via phone or email because there's no one in the office, please go to the instructions, because unless it's a specific question dealing with your operation, if it's just a general, how do I calculate this fee, what do you mean by this word, most of those questions are going to be addressed in the instructions. So let's go to the next slide. So important things I want you to remember if you're a producer. Number 1, there is a one-time $400 new application fee for each application submitted, and this fee is non-refundable. We've always had a new application fee, but it simply was not enough to facilitate the initial development of an organic account here in our office, and if an operation either withdrew their certification or surrendered their certification, there simply wasn't enough fees already in place that were non-refundable to cover that cost. So we had to greatly increase the new application fee, unfortunately, just to make sure that even if only the bare minimum of work was performed, we would still recover our cost and ensure compliance with the legislature's mandate. Now, the second portion of the fee is the certification fee. And the base certification fee for organic producers is dependent on the total acres under organic management. We also have additional certification fees that are dependent upon the breadth of inputs used or planned for use on your operation. Inputs include seed, which filters down to and narrows down to the variety of seed, not each individual seed, but the varieties. So if you're using Sweet Queen corn and Silver Queen corn, those are 2 separate varieties, and they will be counted as 2 separate inputs. Planting stock is typically used by greenhouse operations, fresh produce operations, and citrus operations. If you're a traditional row crop producer, you probably are not familiar with this term, and that's perfectly fine. Those of you who are familiar with the phrase of planting stock, you'll understand that that's simply a different type, such as a rhizome, cutting, things of that nature. And also, all fertility, pest, weed, and disease management inputs that are applied for crops or planned for application of crops under organic management. And then in the past, we have had livestock certification fees separate from land producer. We have now combined all of this because we found that we were essentially doing the same review information twice, because a large portion of the livestock organic system plan deals with pasture management, which is also covered under the organic crop producer plan because pasture is considered an organic crop. So we have now combined those to try and decrease unnecessary work for both the producer as well as program review staff. So let's go on to the next slide, and I'm going to use this as an example. Forgive me, these are slightly blurry, but it will give you a point of reference when you're actually looking at the forms. First thing I want to point out is step 1, checking the certification scopes. By checking the applicable boxes in section A, that if you're using a writable form, the Excel version of the form, that will automatically calculate the application fee for each scope that you are being certified for, that you are requesting certification for, as well as the $1,000 livestock production scope fee. A few things that I want to point out. For operations with 50 acres or less, the minimum certification fee is $1,000, and you have a baseline of inputs included as part of the certification fee. Baseline of inputs included as part of the certification fee is 25 inputs. So for 50 acres or less, you have a new application fee of $400, a certification fee of $1,000, and that includes the review of 25 inputs. Now, as mentioned in the previous slide about additional certification fees for inputs above the baseline, that means that you would have to utilize 26 inputs before you would incur any additional certification fees. If you use inputs above the baseline of the certification provided in the certification fee, that there is a $100 review fee per input. But we have recently completed the majority of crop producers' annual updates, and we found that only a very small percentage, matter of fact, about 10%, incurred any amount of additional fees for inputs. And that also includes those operations that are above 50 acres. Now, operations that have more than 50 acres, you will incur a certification fee of $1,500, and you have a baseline of 5 inputs. Typically, this is because operations that are more than 50 acres are your traditional row crops, so you're not going to be using as many inputs. Therefore, when you consider of the, I believe, 130 crop producers that are currently certified in an application status, with 10% of those receiving any additional fees, that means only 10 to 13 operations received any additional fees. So if you were concerned about the likelihood of you incurring additional fees, please contact us and let us walk through the application process with you, because you'll probably find out, as many of our certified operations did, that you're overestimating your inputs. One additional point that we've heard numerous times is that incorporation of the fee for additional inputs has caused operations to reevaluate all of the inputs that they're using, especially for the fertility and the weed and pest disease management, to see what was actually of true benefit and what they were just applying because they had applied it in the past. And many of these operations found that they actually decreased their inputs, therefore decreasing their production cost, and have as an equal to product crop yield or a slightly above average crop yield, because the crops are not trying to get all the nutrients and absorb the nutrients at the level of the soil. It's causing their root systems to dig down and find the nutrients deep within the soil. So, let me see. Yes, I've covered everything here. All right, so let's move on. I want to also include a little bit of information today concerning handlers. I know several of you are contemplating either on-farm processing or value-added products. This is a great way to grow your operation and incorporate some diversity into your business plan. So again, I'll try and keep this brief because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions, so please forgive me if I rush through this. Again, there is a one-time $400 new application fee for each application submitted, and this is non-refundable. For handlers, the base certification fee is $1,500, and additional certification fees are dependent upon the breadth of the operation, and this means the number of product labels submitted for review at the time of the application, and then for future annual updates, we only charge product label reviews for changes or for new product labels. So if you keep the same product label for 5 years, you're only going to be charged for that product label on the first year that you use it. And then there is additional certification fee for multi-ingredient products submitted for certification. These are lengthy reviews, and again, we are a cost recovery program. So when we're looking at the cost of certification, we must identify where the bulk of our reviews occur, and for handlers, it is on those multi-ingredient products. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll briefly go over the fee calculation for handlers. Again, in Section A of the 600 form, make sure that you check the appropriate box so that the new application fee will automatically calculate. And then there are 2 locations where you're going to include information if you're using the writable form. So the first location is step 2, and that is for the total number of product labels and label templates utilized. And the second location is going to be the number of multi-ingredient products. That means if you are not utilizing product labels, if you're just selling bulk product and it's a single ingredient, the cost of your initial certification is $1,900, and in future years it will be $1,500. In this particular example, it is a bit pixelated. Again, I apologize for the quality of my slides, but I wanted to give you an example of what the fee looks like for a new applicant that uses both product labels as well as multi-ingredient products. So the fee for label review is $200 per product label review or product label template review. So for this one, my arrows are actually covering up, but there were 2 product labels at so 2 times 200 is $400. And then the operation has 2 multi-ingredient products, so 2 products times $250 for review is $500. That means their total certification fee is $2,800. So if they were not using product labels and were not doing multi-ingredient products, it would be $1,900, but since this operation it is $2,800. So let's quickly move on to my last slide. I want to absolutely encourage everyone that is currently certified or is about to obtain their initial certification to apply for the National Organic Certification Cost Share Program. Our grants department here at TDA facilitates this program for the state of Texas. Even operations that are not certified organic by TDA are eligible for this program because it is funded by USDA, Agriculture Marketing Service. It is not funded specifically for and to operations that are certified by TDA. It is available to all certified operations that are physically located within the state lines of Texas. Now there is a deadline for these cost share program. It is 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, Friday, October 30th, 2015. And the period of eligibility, meaning that certification had to have initially been provided or achieved, or annual update had to be processed through during the period of October 1st, 2014 and September 30th of 2015. So you must have paid certification fees during that time period, have obtained initial certification, or have been currently certified during that time period along with those fees. And I do want to encourage you to, again, apply for this cost share certification cost share reimbursement program. Reason being is that let's say that you're on the high end of certification here at TDA for crop producers, and your certification is $1,500. That means that you're eligible for the maximum reimbursement fee of $750. That then reduces your total net impact of your cost of certification down to $750. When some of the smaller operations have evaluated the cost of their certification for this year, along with their cost share reimbursement amount, they have found that they actually either only had less than a $50 fee increase, and in some cases it was actually less than. So they were actually paying more fees and getting a lower reimbursement under the old fee schedule than what they are now, meaning that they were getting a true economic benefit from the new fee schedule. It's a bit convoluted how all of that works, but main thing is if you have a certification fee of $1,500, and you get that $750 reimbursement, your true cost of certification is $750. So the cost share program is very important. I encourage everyone who is currently certified or is fixing to obtain their initial certification to apply for this program. Ms. Brenda Tharp is the primary contact for this, and this page shows her contact information, her telephone number, as well as the email address of grants@texasagriculture.gov. Now that takes us to our last slide, and I will turn the microphone back over to Mr. Robert.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary Ellen. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Have some questions coming in. The first one that I see is relating to the resources for the program. It's questioning, has TDA added any resources to the organic certification program in the past year? And then if yes or no, what about the future? Will there be any additional staff or other resources added?
Okay, if anybody could see me right now, you would see me doing my happy dance. On March the 2nd, we obtained our new certification review specialist, Ms. Theodora Martinez. She goes by Thea for short, and this notification literally just occurred yesterday. We are getting another review specialist on August the 17th, and I'm so thrilled for her. She is, Ms. Pamela is going to be a great addition to our program, and Thea has hit the ground running back in March. She, as anyone that's currently certified knows, our annual update for the majority of crop producers every year is March 31st. So Thea came in with literally days to get ready, and due to her previous experiences being a CHIRP inspector here at TDA, she was able to quickly grasp the NOP regulations, the basic concepts of production practices used by our operations that are certified here at TDA, and she has just been a huge benefit to this program. By bringing her on board, we were able to completely resolve our backlog of pending reviews, and that, again, we just brought her on board March 2nd, and we're getting our new hire on board, Ms. Pam, on August the 17th. So we are getting additional resources. We've had great support from Commissioner Miller and his executive staff, and I'm really looking forward to the upcoming days and our future of this program.
Wow, that's good news. Thank you, Mary Ellen. That relates to the next question is, given the additional resources, approximately how long is the current wait to get a TDA inspector to come do the inspection after you get an application?
Okay, this truly depends on the quality of the application. I always try and encourage everyone to give us at least 120 days 90 days if you're running short on time. But if you're in a situation where you need your certification in 60 days or less, call us first, please. Speak to either myself or the other experienced certification specialist, Ms. Nicole Fiedler, and let us do an internal evaluation on the spot before you submit your application. 60 days or less should be the red flag, and you may need to go to a private sector certifying agent and then look back at us in future years. I don't want anyone to miss out on obtaining organic certification, so we're always going to be brutally honest with you on these time frames. But again, 120 days is our preferred. We can go through the certification process without any rush or stress and get you to the point of a certification decision in as relaxed as an environment as possible. When you start moving down to 90 days, it becomes imperative that we correspond via email and telephone, and if we send you an email, that you respond within the provided time frame without any delays. Therefore, if you have a higher learning curve of the regulations, that 90-day time frame may put you at risk of not getting certified prior to the harvest of your first crop. Anytime below that 90 days, if you're not very familiar with the regulations, it's going to be of concern. We just finished somebody with a 60-day turnaround, but that operation was previously certified prior to the drought, and there had not been any application of prohibited substances, and the producer was able to look back at her records and really book through the certification process. And anytime we called her or emailed her, she literally responded within 24 hours. So 60 days, we can do it, but it's going to be tough. And if it's in a high season, meaning February through May or August through October, we may need to send you somewhere else. So, in a visual image, green light, 120 days. Yellow light would be 90 days, 75 to 90 days, and a red light would be 60 days or less.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn. Next question. If a certified organic vegetable producer has a walk-in cooler for storing vegetables prior to market, are they required to also be certified as a processor?
Okay. This is one of those gray areas that certifying agents kind of have to wade through with NOP. Don't laugh, Robert. You and I both know that it's one of those headaches. Depending on who you talk to at NOP on any given day is whether or not you would get a yes or a no. Our interpretation of the regulations states that the definite is on the definition of processing in 205.2, and it expressly states the activity of cooling or chilling for the purpose of retarding spoilage. So if you're sticking the crop in a cooler for the purpose of retarding spoilage, meaning that you're harvesting on one day and you're taking to the market on the next, to us that is considered processing. Now, if we get notification from NOP that our interpretation of the definition is inaccurate, we will be happy to remove that. But for right now, yes, we do consider putting the product in a cooler to be processing and requires processing certification. Now, on a side note, one thing I have observed is that typically within 6 months of an operation getting a cooler, they also start doing value-added practices such as chopping, cleaning, packaging, and labeling product, because now the operation also has the ability to store it and conduct those additional handling handling activities on site with few to no additional improvements to the operation. In those cases, cutting, chopping, packaging, and labeling, those last two being very important, you absolutely have to have processor certification, because it is without a doubt post-harvest handling and processing. While there is some ambiguity on the cooler storage, just the cooler storage, any of those additional practices, you better get a processor certification.
Okay, thank you. The next question kind of relates to timing as a TDA inspector coming out to the farm, and the question is, do you have to have crops already planted before you can get certified?
Great question. And the answer is a big no. It is helpful, both from a review standpoint as well as for a producer who is getting into the certification process for the first time. It is helpful to have crops in the ground, because you, the producer, as you're observing the inspector walking the fields, you can talk to your inspector about buffer zones of, this is where I have my buffer zone right now, but you know, I'm contemplating whether or not it's sufficient, because wind directions typically blow north. My southern neighbor is a conventional producer, and I just noticed that they just got a brand new sparkly boom sprayer. I'm concerned. It's a great way to initiate those conversations. But from a regulation compliance standpoint, it is not necessary to have a crop in the ground prior to inspection.
Great. Thank you for the clarification. I have kind of a scenario that might come up. A question about, what if a producer reports the planned use of 24 ingredients in the original farm system plan, and then 2 months later reports to you the use of 2 more ingredients? Will he or she be charged another $100?
It is dependent, and there is a possibility that, and if it, you said 24.
Right.
If their baseline is 25, then they would only receive a fee of $100, because they would still have $100 remaining on that, on their baseline before they would go above that. So 24 plus 2 is 26. So they would only be charged for the one substance, which would, the one material, input material, which would be $100. And we do try and work with operations if we're still in the initial review process, if the inspection hasn't been conducted yet. We're going to take a realistic approach to that and ask our supervisors if we can waive that fee. It's not always my decision. It's not always Nicole and Thea's decision. It does go up the chain to either our director, Mr. Mike Mann, or our administrator, Mr. Randy Rivera, on whether or not we can waive those fees or have to charge them. But we do try and take a realistic approach on that. Now, if the certification process has already been completed, the updated certificate has been issued, and the file has been put back into the record storage, and we have to pull that file back out, I'm not going to get an approval for a fee waiver. So a lot of this is going to be dealing with timing. But for clarification purposes, in the case of 24 inputs and they're adding 2 additional, it would be a fee of $100, and it would be dependent upon the time of annual update or initial application that the additional inputs were submitted for review.
Okay, thank you. The next question relates to the process of the cost share applications, and it reads like this. Can you give us some observations about the cost share applications you have been receiving? Are there any widespread errors you have noticed that you could mention in today's audience so they could avoid committing them in a future application to you.
Okay, let's go back to the cost share slide, please, Katie. Thank you. Oh, right there. Perfect. All right. So I think the last time I actually processed a cost share application was in 2012 or 2013. At that time, it was 2012 actually, for this past time, because there was a lag period on funding for the cost share program, but y'all don't care about that. So from the previous cost share program to the current cost share program, Ms. Brenda Tharp has been the primary contact and the first level processor of these applications. So she would be the one to address that question too. And I know she would be happy to answer that question, but from my experiences and dealing with previous cost share programs, I can say that the most common mistake comes from the actual fee amount identified, and that people have a tendency to include late fees, as well as fees for international marketing programs, etc. The only fees that are eligible for cost share reimbursement are certification fees. Late fees, international fees, other marketing programs, non-GMO, those are not eligible. Only certification fees. For certifying agents that have inspection fees separate from the certification fees, those are also included. TDA does not have an inspection fee separate, so you don't have to worry about that from us, but other certifying agents such as CCOF and I believe Nature's International do have their inspection fee separate from their certification fee. Also, on note, new application fees, which are considered part of the certification cost, are included as a allowable fee for reimbursement. But again, international fees, marketing fees, those are not allowed. So from what my experiences are, it comes in the fee amount that is submitted, not necessarily other information that's put on the form. It's just that base amount. Anything else we can generally work with and give you a phone call and say, hey, you know, what's going on with this? But when it comes to that actual fee amount, when that's incorrect, it puts a stop hold on the whole process, and we have to go back to the applicant and say, you know, this is what you submitted based upon our review. This is what we're coming up with. Can you explain why there is this difference? In other situations, we can usually kind of skim over all of that, unless it's an address. If your address is wrong, obviously there's going to be some issues. But typically, it comes down to the fee amount that's listed as being the certification fee, total certification cost.
Okay. Another question just popped up related to that. Can a grower use the cost share every time he or she gets recertified, or is it just a one-time only thing?
Great question. And unfortunately, this is going to be another long answer rather than just a simple yes or no. In theory, it's going to be an answer of yes. However, the funding for the National Organic Certification Cost Share Program is through the Farm Bill. And as everyone knows, Farm Bill is every 5 years. Therefore, if the U.S. Congress sits on the Farm Bill and does not get it approved, just as occurred a couple years ago now, and I believe it was 2013, for the year of 2013, there was not cost share available at that time. There was a period where we came back and USDA made funding available for fees incurred during that time period, but let's say if you submitted your fee payment on on March 31st, you could not turn around and submit your cost share reimbursement application on April 1st. You had to wait until funding came available. So under normal circumstances, yes, it is available on an annual basis. But again, dependent on how the U.S. Congress is moving, there may be cases, some instances in between farm bills where the cost share is not available.
Okay, thank you. Another question, you mentioned a minute ago some other certifiers. Do you have any insights or observations about other certifiers that you might want to share with us?
Certifying agents are required to accept the certification decisions made by other certifying agents. So we have to hold other certifying agents both as a counterpart for the ongoing performance of the organic certification process, and we also have to work with them as far as, well, let me give you an example right now. So we had a complaint that was filed here to us at TDA. We've forwarded that complaint up to NOP, and we also notified the operations certifying agent about the complaint. We have a great working relationship with the vast majority of the other certifying agents. Some of the certifying agents we've just never come into contact with, but I believe there are 8 certifying agents that, besides TDA, that provide certification services here in Texas. I think they all do the best of their capability in providing certification services. And while some will come out and say, oh, we're the standard, or we're the #1 certifying agent, all I care about as a fellow certifying agent is, are they doing their job, and are they holding their certified operations to the NOP regulations? And every single time I've come into contact with another certifying agent, the answer to both of those questions is yes. So if you look on the National Organic Program website, there is a listing of certifying agents that provide certification services here in the state of Texas, and I would honestly recommend any of them. You've got to look at your business practices and what services are provided by the certification agency that you're looking at. CCOF has the ability to have all of their certification forms fillable online and submitted online. Their fee schedule for some operations is great. Their fee schedule for some operations is not so great. Same here at TDA. Our fee schedule for some operations is great. Our fee schedule for some operations is not so great. Our job as certifying agents is to provide the certification service. We here at TDA also have the requirement of being 100% cost recovery. Some operations are nonprofit, some operations are for-profit. Either way, at the end of the day, they're still a certifying agent, and we all do the same job.
All right. Well, thank you for those observations, Mary Ellen. We've kind of run out of questions, so again, I want to thank you for taking the time to explain this to us. I know it's of interest to a lot of people. We here at NCAT hear all the time about different questions about the certification program, and it's been beneficial. And so I want to thank all the people who attended, all the people who asked the questions, and just to say to all you folks who are maybe not certified organic yet and listening, we would certainly encourage you to continue down that road, and we want to help you do that. And I know Mary Ellen and her coworkers would be glad to do that also. So in the absence of any other questions, I will just kind of sign off and say thank you to everybody again.
All right, and one quick addition, everyone, please make sure to write down our contact information. It's available here. We've got our email addresses as well as our websites, the texasagriculture.gov and the atrancat.org, as well as the organic email address at organic@texasagriculture.gov, and then Robert and his crew's email address at askanag. ncat.org. Please write this information down, come back to it on the recording. We are here to provide as much of a service as we can within our capabilities, and we do want to provide whatever service, whatever assistance we are able to do.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. So good day to everybody.